How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. This book is dedicated to a man who doesn't need to read it, Royal Thomas. How this book was written and why. 35 years ago, I was one of the unhappiest lads in New York. I was selling the motor trucks for a living. I didn't know what made a motor truck run. That wasn't all. I didn't know. I did not want to know. I despised my job. I despised living in a cheap furnished room on West 56th Street, a room infested with cockroaches. I still remember that I had a bunch of neckties hanging on the walls, and when I reached out of a morning to get a fresh necktie, the cockroaches scattered in all directions. I despised having to eat in cheap, dirty restaurants that were also probably infested with cockroaches. I came home to my lonely room each night with a sick headache bred and fed by disappointment, worry, bitterness, and rebellion. I was rebelling because the dream I had nourished back in my college days had turned into nightmares. Was this life? Was this the vital adventure to which I had looked forward so eagerly? Was this all life would never mean to me? Working at a job I despised, living with cockroaches, eating wild food, and with no hopes for the future. I longed for leisure to read and to write the books I had dreamed of writing back in my college days. I knew I had everything to gain and nothing to lose by living up the job I despised. I wasn't interested in making a lot of money, but I was interested in making a lot of living. In short, I had come to the Rubicon, to that moment of decisions which faces most young people when they start out in life. So I made my decision, and that decisions completely altered my future. It has made the last 35 years having and rewarding beyond my most utopian aspiration. My decisions was this. I could give up the work I loathed, and since I had spent 4 years studying in the State Teachers College at Warrensburg, Missouri, preparing to teach, I would make my living teaching adult classes in night schools. Then I would have my days free to read books, prepare lecture, write novels and short stories. I wanted to live to write and write to live. What subjects should I teach to adults at night? As I looked back and evaluated my own college training, I saw that the training and the experience I had had in public speaking had been of more practical value to me in business and in life than everything else I had studied in college, all put together. Why? Because it had wiped off my timidity and lack of confidence, given me the courage and assurance to deal with people. It had also made clear that leadership usually gravitates to the man who can get up and say what he thinks. I applied for position teaching public speaking in the night extension courses, both at Columbia University and New York University. But these universities decided they could struggle along somehow without my help. I was disappointed then, but I now thank God that they did turn me down because I started teaching in YMCA night school, where I had to show concrete results and saw them quickly. What a challenge that was. This adult did come These adults didn't come to my classes because they wanted college credit or social prestige. They come for reasons only. They wanted to solve their problems. They wanted to be able to stand up on their own feet and say a few words at a business meeting without fainting from fright. Salesmen wanted to be able to call on Todd's customer without having to walk around the block 3 times to get out of college. They wanted to develop poise and self-confidence. They wanted to get ahead in business. They wanted to have more money for their families, and since they were paying their tuitions on an installment basis, and they stopped paying if they didn't get results, and since I was being paid not a salary but a percentage of the profit, I had to be practical if I wanted to eat. I felt at time that I was teaching under a handicap, but I realized now that I was getting priceless training. I had to motivate my student, I had to help them solve their problems, I had to make each sessions on so inspiring that they wanted to continue coming. It was exciting work. I love it. I was astounded at how quickly these businessmen developed self-confidence and how quickly many of them secured promotions and increased pay. The classes were succeeding far beyond my most optimistic hopes. Within 3 seasons, the YMCA's, which had refused to pay me $5 a night in salary, were paying me $30 a night on percentage basis. At first, I thought only public speaking, but as the years went by, I was that these adults so adult. I saw that these adults also needed the ability to win friends and influence the people. Since I couldn't find an adequate textbook on human relations, I wrote on my shelves. I wrote one on my shelves. I was written. No, it wasn't written in the usual way. I grew and evolved out of the experiences of the adult in these classes. I called it How to Win Friends and Influence People. Since it was written solely as a textbook for my own adult classes, and since I had written 4 other books that no one had ever heard of, I never dreamed that it would have a large sales. I am probably one of the most astonished authors now living. As the years went by, I realized that another one of the biggest problems of these adults was worry. A large majority of my students were businessmen, executives, salesmen, engineers, accountants, across sections of all the trades and professionals, and most of them had problems. There were women in the classes, business women and housewives. They too had problems. Clearly, what I needed was a textbook on how to conquer worry. So again, I tried to find one. I went to New York's Great Public Library at 50th Avenue and 42nd Street and discovered to my astonishment that this library had only 22 books listed under the Little Worry. And also noticed to my amusement that it had 189 books listed under worms. Almost 9 times as many books about the worms as about worry. Astounding, isn't it? Since worry is one of the biggest problems facing the mankind, you would think, wouldn't you, that every high school and college in the land would give a course on how to stop worrying. Yet if there is even one course on that subject in any colleges in the land. I have never heard of it. No wonder David Severy said in his book How to Worry Successfully, we come to maturity with as little preparations for the pressure of experiences as a bookworm asked to do a ballet. The result? More than the half of our hospital beds are occupied by the peoples with nervous and emotional troubles. I looked over those 22 books on worryings reposing on the shelf of Newark Public Library. In addition, I purchased all the books on worry I could find, yet I couldn't discover even one that I could use a text in my courses for adult. So I resolved to write one myself. I began preparing myself to write this book 7 years ago. How? By regarding what the philosophers of all ages have said about worry. I also read hundreds of biographies all the way from Confucius to Churchill. I also interviewed the scores of the prominent people in many walks of life, such as Jack Dempsey, General Omar Bradley, General Mark Lark, Henry Ford, Eleanor Roosevelt, Dorothy Dix, but that was only one beginning. I also did something else that was far important than the interviews and the reading. I worked for 5 years in laboratories for conquering worry, a laboratory conducted in our own adult classes. As far as I know, it is the first and only laboratory of its kind in the world. This is what we did. We gave the students a set of rules on how to stop worrying and asked them to apply these rules in their own lives and then talk to the classes on the results that they had obtained. Others reported on techniques they had used in the past. As a result of this experience, I presume I have listened to more talks on how I conquered worry than has any other individual who ever walked this earth. In addition, I read hundreds of other talks on how I conquered worry, talks that were sent to me by mails, talks that had on own prize in our classes that are held in more than 170 cities throughout the United States and Canada. So this book didn't come out of an ivory tower. Neither is it an academic pursuit on how worries might be conquered. Instead, I have tried to write a fast-moving, concise, documented report on how worry has been conquered by thousands of adults. One thing is certain, this book is practical. You can set your teeth in it. I am happy to say that you won't find in these books stories about the imaginary Mr. B or Wagyu, Mary and John, whom no one can identify except in few rare cases. This book names and gives street addresses. It is authentic, it is documented, it is vouched for and certified. Science, said the French philosopher Valery, is a collection of successful recipes. That is what this book is, collections of successful and time-tested recipes to read our lives of worry. However, let me warn you, you won't find anything new in it, but you will find much that is not generally applied. And when it comes to that, you and I don't need to be told anything new. We already know enough to lead perfect lives. We have all read the Golden Rules and the Sermon on the Mount. Our trouble is not ignorance but inactions. The purpose of this book is to restate, illustrate, streamline your conditions and the glory a lot of ancient and basic truth and kick you insane and make you do something about applying them. You didn't pick up this book to read about how it was written. You are looking for actions. Alright, let's go. Please read the first 44 pages of this book. And if by that time you don't feel that you have acquired a new power and a new inspirations to stop worry and enjoy life, then toss this book into the dustbin. It is no good for you.